Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so I'm Raymond Israeli and I'm from the Philippines, and I'm gonna be presenting to you our project for today. But before we start, I wanna start by asking you a question. By raise of hand, I wanna see who uses plastic. Oh, great, every one of us. Because plastic is everywhere. Plastic is like an epidemic. And it is nearly impossible for all of us to get rid of plastic in our daily lives, doesn't it? And it is really also impossible for us to get rid of the plastic pollution, right? So now, because plastic does not biodegrade. It is a material that the earth cannot digest. Also, plastic, it affects human life. It is a material that can make us sick, like for example, burning plastic, and that will eventually lead to air pollution. And also, plastic threatens wildlife. It is a material that can cause an imbalance. As you can see, the turtle might have think that this plastic is like a jellyfish for him to eat. And lastly, plastic poisons our food chain. It is a material that can kill our food. Now, just to give you a little bit of a generalization of what I'm talking about, it's like when you throw a plastic, human throw plastic, and it will eventually comes up, and it will eventually comes back to us. So it is basically the explanation of the generalization, the issues I presented earlier. So now I want you to listen and to, as I described to you, the statistic and data. So this is in 2010. According to this data, in 2010 there are 270 million metric tons of plastic that is produced. And then there are 275 million metric tons of plastic waste. So there is actually more than 5 million metric tons that is actually produced as waste as compared to 277 that is produced. So that's the global perspective. So now let's go to the ASEAN perspective. In 2010 as well, in a research conducted by Chamberg in 2015, ASEAN stayed top global list of ocean plastic polluters. Almost half of the top 10 are from the ASEAN region. Indonesia 2nd rank, Philippines 3rd, Vietnam 4th, Thailand 6th, and Malaysia 8th rank. So now that I've presented to you the data, it's kind of clear to you that the problem is really intriguing. It's really we need to address it. So now, what do we want to do? Is it possible for us to go plastic free? Is it possible for us to go rise above plastic? So our group is presenting to you this project. It's called Mission to Zero, a plastic debris management program. So now, I think in every project, it is very important to just introduce the vision and mission. Why are we doing this? So, our vision for this project is zero plastic waste in the ASEAN region. And our mission is to educate residents of the ASEAN to use alternatives to plastic. So now, how are we going to do that? What is our mechanism? Can you guys see this? It's P for RE. P for RE, I'll explain to you what does it mean. So P for RE, so for better remembering, it's like plastic free. P for RE, plastic free. So P for RE stands for P for pre-cycling, avoiding it before it produces waste, and then repurposing, using plastic to another purpose, and then we have reusing and recycling. So now I presented to you our problem, the data globally and in the ASEAN. So now, how are we going to do this? So I'll call Dan, my friend from Malaysia, to discuss to you the timeline.
Okay, so where are we going to start our project first of all? It's not going to start first in Cambodia, but it's actually going to start in a village in Thailand. Our target area is villages around the ASEAN nation. We are going to start in one village and then move on to further ASEAN nations. We're going to start in a village called Ban Kong Yong, which is the smallest village. It's only 525 households there. Okay, this is the timeline of our project. Our preliminary outreach is going to take about 3 months. The final evaluation is going to take a month, And the final launch of the campaign is going to start after those 4 months for a total of 3 months, which makes our whole program a 7-month outreach. What we're going to do in the preliminary phase is we're going to engage youth volunteers from universities and colleges, and we're going to engage them to join our cause. We're going to incentivize them by making this part of the schooling system to participate in environmental education, and also to give them very good looking, credible certificates. What we're going to do is also to communicate with the important stakeholders. They are local market authorities, local citizens, US Embassy, and non-governmental organizations that support our environmental cause. I'll explain why. What we're going to do is we're going to conduct volunteer trainings with our volunteers. We're going to engage them, educate them about environmental awareness and the use of plastic and why it needs to be eradicated. Empower the volunteers to empower other people. What we're going to be doing is product design. We're going to be designing eco-friendly bags, like the ones we have, our YSEALI bags, and we're going to be distributing them to the local markets in these villages. We also will need material designs for our bags. Okay, for the actual launch, what we're going to do is we're going to be doing bag distributions in the local markets. We're going to engage these different communities in Thailand, and we're going to engage them to get the student volunteers to give out eco-friendly bags for free to the local community to use. And what these volunteers are going to do is explain and educate the community on why they should be using this instead of plastic bags. We're also going to be conducting educational programs in the schools and primary schools so that children are brought up with the education that they should not be using plastic bags. Awareness in schools, and we're also going to conduct cleanup projects so that the community is aware and educated about why their community should not be using plastics. They will, by doing cleanup projects, they will actually be able to see. They might be able to read statistics, but statistics just make you desensitized. But by seeing it on first hand, you will know why your community should not be using plastics and what it does to your community. Resources. Very few. All we need is about 25 student volunteers per nation. We need the teachers to be involved in our program to support, and the financial support that we require is only the seed grant that we'll be receiving tonight, and sponsorship from NGOs and environmental NGOs that support our cause, and the US Embassy that is going to be giving us more after they hear my presentation. Roles of stakeholders, housewives, they are possibly the most users of plastic bags when they go to the supermarkets and users of plastics. Vendors who give out plastic bags and other plastic materials for sale. Trash collector companies, local authorities, mass media, and influential people who would speak up for us. Non-governmental organizations, especially environmental ones. University students and bag manufacturers for our eco-friendly bag project. Our communication plan, preliminary audience will be the community in Thailand, the village community. Mass media, meaning the village, to engage the media of the village with, which is possibly the local radio stations for them to air news about us. Local newspapers and public announcements for the events we're going to be conducting. Social media, to get the world to come to know our cause, to recruit more volunteers and get extra support. I re-emphasize that example of using eco-friendly bags is pre-cycling. We're going to be pushing the cause of pre-cycling, repurposing, reusing, and recycling as well. This is an example of repurposing. It's a boat made out of plastic bottles. This is how people can repurpose the use of plastic bottles that we have on our tables. And what this can do for a local village is not just provide an alternative for using plastics, but also it can be made into really cool and unique designs that could be sold for tourism purposes to help the local community earn extra income. Other examples is this really cool chandelier. We can start replacing them with the ones in this room with chandeliers such as this. And if you don't know, this is actually fake flowers. It can be used for decoration. This is an example of repurposing. And my favorite is this dress, which I would like my girlfriend to wear, but really, if somebody can do it, it is possible, and it's a really, really cool design. Another example of repurposing. Okay, recycling. We're also going to be running recycling campaigns in the schools and in the local community to educate them on how to recycle. We'll be providing them the platform and the means to start the habit of recycling in their community. reusing items, giving the community different ideas, such as that dress and different ways they can reuse plastic bottles, plastic bags, and different plastic items. Okay, how do we measure the success of our program? Very simple. We have to see in three aspects: socially, economically, and environmentally. Socially, we'll have to see the awareness and the education and the knowledge of the local community strengthened towards environmental issues such as plastics. Economically, this should be able to boost the tourism of that local community because it will be naturally cleaner and it will be nicer, so it will be recommended for tourism. Employment should increase if they take up repurposing, especially to resell items such as my dress, and also to increase the village income, which should happen by the end of our 7-month project. Environmentally, very clearly, by doing cleanups and healthy practice of no plastic use, this should have visible, cleaner landscape of the community. Ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN needs us now. We need to realize that if we want to have a mission to zero and have a zero plastic use and plastic debris in the ASEAN region, it needs to start now. It needs to start with Team 9 Lions Club. Thank you.